start right from the beginning. So hello, my name's Gwen Fletcher and I'm here on behalf of Jamie Rodgers. I'm here to represent and I'm loving every minute of it. It's so exciting, isn't it? Hi Jamie. Oh, thank goodness for that. That's brilliant. Let's hope it continues. Yeah, so did you see Jamie's live on Monday? How exciting was that? I mean, there was a lot to take in. I've been back and watched it a couple of times just to catch up on everything. It's incredible. And the design team, oh my word, aren't they a talented bunch? They make me feel very inadequate. But anyway, I'm going to talk to you tonight about the architectural collection, which is one of the slightly earlier collections, and it's a collection of stamps. So no dies this time, apart from some sentiments. And they are beautiful. So let's take a look. So we'll start with the Lighthouse. There are 4 architectural stamps in this collection, sort of structural buildings and scenes and sentiments. Really gorgeous and really, really good for so many occasions and so many different people. I really love this collection, but then I always sort of lean slightly towards stamps anyway. But not that I don't like dies, I love dies, but I do particularly enjoy working with stamps as well. So here we have our beautiful lighthouse, and we've got this beautiful sky with the clouds scudding across there, the waves breaking on the rocks, and of course the beacon of the lighthouse showing there. And then we've got some lovely sentiments with this set. Thank you for being there. Ahoy there. Always here for you. You light up my life. I think they're really lovely. And I think this is really great as well, as you'll see from some of the samples, for a sympathy card or a thinking of you card, something a little bit quieter perhaps than, you know, the celebratory cards and that sort of thing. So that's our fabulous lighthouse. Hi Bev. Yes, it's gorgeous, isn't it? Bev's saying she loves the collection. So let's now have a look at the fabulous church. This is obviously going to lend itself to weddings, christenings, those sorts of occasions, Christmas, anything like that. And I've just stamped out this set so you can see exactly what you're going to get. So the church itself is really beautiful. You've got a lovely tree in the background, some greenery, so plenty of scope for doing some colouring. And then you have this fantastic ornate cross, which I think is really beautiful. Now that's going to lend itself to all sorts of religious occasions. It might come in at Easter as well. So a lovely addition. And then we have thinking of you, congratulations on your wedding, with sympathy, and on your christening. So you could have thinking of you on your christening, congratulations on your wedding. You can put these together into a phrase to suit whatever occasion you need it for. And then the next one we're going to have a look at is the fairy tale castle. This is just beautiful. I think, you know, it lends itself to lots of magical sparkle and, you know, pretty colours. It gives me a feel of sort of, I'm going back to my former life, medieval knights on horses and all that sort of thing. Let's not go there again. Alright, so let's have a look at what we have in this set. We've got the actual castle, which is beautifully drawn, and it's sitting up there on a hill. We've got hills in the background, we've got some trees and some beautiful flowers, and these are separate stamps. The sun there in the cloud. Hi Kath. And we've got some lovely sentiments again. You are a legend. That's what Nigel always used to call me on the telly. Call me a legend or a legend. Have a magical day. Have the day of your dreams. Love that. That would be great for a wedding, for any girly girl's birthday, or any young man, boy, man's birthday. It doesn't really matter, does it? Okay, and then we'll go back to the pub, because I don't know how much of it you saw. Probably not very much. The pub is fabulous, isn't it? Quintessentially English. You know, we do like our pubs in this country, although they are going thinner and thinner, aren't they? And in here we've got the fabulous pub, and it's a thatched building. And then we've got a pint of beer, a glass of wine, and lots of sentiments here to build up your theme for your card, or your scrapbook page, or your journal page, or whatever it might be. So we've got cheers, fancy a pint, let's celebrate, here's to you, take it easy, drinks are on me, and happy birthday. Lots of sentiments. And of course the sentiments can be used with anything else you've got, not just, you don't have to stick with the pub, do you? So then let's have a look at the backgrounds. Now you'll have to forgive me because I didn't have a packaged one of this. So these are our DL background collection of stamps, and this one is happy birthday, and it's got happy birthday in lots of different styles and different fonts, capital letters, upper and lower. You've got little symbols in between here, and to me this lends itself to being chopped up. You could make some lovely thin borders just by cutting one row off. You could create a panel, whatever you like. You could just use one and have a separate sentiment, just a small sentiment. So that's happy birthday. Then we've got this one, which is gorgeous. This is the newsprint Days Gone By, and this is, as you can see, a collage of all sorts of newspaper entries to do with craft and events, sports, that sort of thing, sewing, perfume. It's really lovely, and these you could easily snip up and use independently to create some sort of a collage or tags, pop them into pockets, add them to your journal pages, whatever you want to do. Again, DL in size, slightly smaller, so it will sit on a panel on a DL card. And then the last one we have is the floral vines, and this is really pretty. It's obviously streamers of leaves and flowers, and lots of them. I think as well, if I'm right in saying, these two will work with the straight lines DL stamp, so where you can stamp it and create the dividing lines between the patterns as well. So that's something else you could add into it should you want to. Alright, let's have a look at some inspiration, and I'm going to start with the church. So have a look at this, isn't that beautiful? I think this one's been done by Jamie himself. Obviously a church, he's used some of the clouded in mystery, but you could equally do it on vellum, and it's given it a lovely sort of frosted look to it. A small amount of colouring done from the back, so it's quite subtle, and it just makes a really pretty card, doesn't it? And this one, I love this. Again, that beautiful cross that I was talking about for a sympathy card. How gorgeous is that? Repeatedly stamped, and then just a very small panel and a with sympathy from one of the sentiments. Thanks, Jamie. He's just confirmed that yes, they do work with the pinstripe stamp. So again, if you want to create a point of difference, you could use those two together, and you would end up with lines down your panel between the detail on these stamps, because the lines would sit exactly between. So that's a really clever thing. And again, it goes back to what we talked about before about Jamie being able to create things which carry through every collection. So right from the start to where we are today, there are things that you can reach back for, and they'll be compatible with what he's producing right up to date. So a fantastic forward thinking. Anyway, that's a beautiful sympathy card. And then we have here a Christmas card, which I think is absolutely beautiful, using the fantastic elaborate poinsettia and some of the foliage, the church, and some of the corners. And this has been done on one of the foiled inkables as a base, and then obviously some toning matching mats and layers. So another really stunning card. And here we have another sympathy card. This is really beautiful. I mean, simplistic in the black, gold and white, very classy, and I think anybody would be touched to receive that. I think that's really gorgeous. And again, using one of the foiled inkables as a base. If you haven't seen these, I am going to use one later on. I think if I get to it, we'll see how we go for time, but they make a fantastic starting point. And sometimes if you're not sure where to start, or you don't want to do lots of mats and layers and die cutting, it gives you so much detail, and then you can just focus on the focal point without having to do too much else. So they're a really good addition to have, I think, in your stash. So that's our lovely perch. Now I'm moving on to the pub, and the pub is beautiful. Look at that. Again, using a foiled inkable, and this has been very subtly stamped with that newsprint background. You can just catch little bits of it coming out. It's there but not too apparent, it doesn't take over. So we've got the pints of beer and the pub's been beautifully coloured in there. And then we have quite a different effect here with this one. We've got the wine glasses stamped all over as a background. We've also got Happy Birthday stamped with that DL stamp running through that. And then we've got the pub just simply in black and white and just hints of green. It's almost like a tinted colour photograph, isn't it? It's lovely. And then we have this one. This is from Lynn, and Lynn's done us a lovely zigzag card. And she's used the stencil to create these squares on the background, and then we've got drinks are on me, cheers, and the beer glasses, and again our beautiful cottagey pub. And she's brought in some of the stamps from the Fairy Tale Castle, which I think is really lovely. So we've got the sun there and the clouds, the tree, the flowers, to make it all look very country. Love that. And another one here using that fantastic DL newsprint stamp to create a fabulous background. Again, some wine glasses and a pub painted pink this time. That's like a Suffolk, the Suffolk pub, isn't it, in the pink, and the thatch roof, really beautiful. And then we have this one, which again, showing how you can use these smaller stamps and making a background using those over and over again. That's really lovely. And then again, just the pub in white this time. You can really make it fit. If you have a particular village pub, or you know somebody who has one, you can make it fit that theme, couldn't you? So just done on a circle, and then a little scallop circle to mount it with. And one of the sentiments, there were 5 of these layered sentiments that came in this collection as well, or came out at the same time. So that's our fabulous pub. Next we're going to have a look at the Fairy Castle. So there you go, isn't that beautiful? Have a magical day. We've got the castle in pink, why not? And we've got the sun shining, blue sky, what's not to like? And then we have this, which is really lovely, and this is a little MDF tag, and this has been stamped on with that newsprint background. I don't know if you can just pick up that detail, and I think it's been done in Jamie's quick dry pigment inks. It's quite a chalky finish on there, and also some of the metallic, and then painted over the top with the castle. So it's got quite a sort of antique-y feel to that, which I really like. Slightly different. This one is from Ian, and obviously a little girl birthday card, all in pink, 7 years of age. Wouldn't they absolutely love that? Have the day of your dreams. And I love the way he set the scene here with some trees. He's decoupaged one here, so it's in the foreground and beautifully coloured in the castle. And then this one, again, using one of these fantastic foiled inkables, cut the centre out and put the picture behind, so it really frames it. I think that's stunning. And that little hint of gold just makes it pop, doesn't it? And we've got the with love sentiment here as well. And then the last one in this collection I have to show you is this one. This one, obviously using that happy birthday stamp with all the lines going across. I think that makes a fabulous backdrop. And then again the castle painted. This time we've got what could be mountains. They're done more in grey rather than green, so you can change the way it looks, change the scenery. But I think that's a stunning one. I think lovely for a wedding or a birthday or any celebration. I think that would be stunning. And then finally, of course, we have the amazing Lighthouse. And again, we have one of these lovely tags, MDF tag, done in the muted colourways. I think that's lovely. It's very serene, very quiet. And then we've got this one. I love this. I think this is Jamie's. And he's used some of the backdrops for the sentiment dies. If you look at them that way, you'll see. And he's stamped the panel and then cut these out and separated them to create that. Isn't that lovely? Very clever. And he is very clever. And then this one, very simple monochrome, black and white. Thank you for being there. Somebody who's perhaps helped you through some difficult situation or whatever it might have been. Just nice to acknowledge the help you've had, isn't it? And this one's completely different. This has got a real seaside theme to it. Look at those fabulous colours. That sky's amazing. And we've got some seashells and rope and driftwood going on. We have glitter paste in the background and some fantastic decorative corners that almost look like netting. I think that's lovely. And I think that's from Ian. Yes, that's Ian. Beautiful, isn't it? And another fairly simple one as far as colouring goes. You don't have to always colour in stamps when you see them like this. They blend themselves to just being black and white. This one, black on the pebble grey cardstock. I think that's really effective. A few highlights. And again, the happy birthday stamped, and then a die cut circle from that. And again, have the day of your dreams. I love that. This one's a little bit different, using those amazing triangle dies to create a very unusual front to the card. I love that. And we've got the Lighthouse, beautifully coloured. I think this is Wendy, yes. And a happy anniversary. Isn't that lovely? Really sunny card. I like that a lot. And then I love this one. I love them all actually. They're so clever, aren't they? This is giving us like a life buoy effect. And we've got some string on this. It's very textural. You light up my life, and we've got that beautifully coloured in Lighthouse. And this one is an easel card. Look at that. Isn't that lovely? So we've got the happy birthday here and happy birthday stamped across there, just one row of that. I think that's really stunning. And all of this has been embossed through the plain lines stencil, so to get that lovely embossed raised effect. Cool. And this one has again that sort of distressed effect from the newsprint stamp, but it's not been stamped perfectly, deliberately to give it that distressed look. And then some of the metallic ink just dotted here and there, and again using a foiled inkable. It shows brilliantly how you can stamp an ink over this, and it takes it quite happily. And then a beautiful red lighthouse there. That's classic, isn't it? A bright red lighthouse. Love that. And you light up my life. So that's really fabulous, isn't it? Okay, so I don't know if we've got many members with us. I think a lot of people have perhaps given up and gone home. I don't blame them. Hi Sheila. Yes, aren't the samples fantastic? They really are. I'm hoping some more people will come back and join us. So yeah, we're getting there. Alright. So I thought tonight what I might do is set a little question of my own. And we will pick an answer at random, and somebody can win something that I make tonight. So my question is this. I've already alluded to it earlier. There's a character which I foolishly said I would like to be. If we could go back to a former period in time, and what was that character that I said I would quite like to be? And I'll give you a clue. I think she would have been quite at home in the village pub. So pop your answers in. We'll choose one at random, and somebody can win something that I make tonight, one of the cards I make tonight. And if you let us know, send a message, let us know if you'd like them to be signed or not. Oh, we've got a few more people dropping in. Great, thank you. Hi Hayley. Yeah, finally. Sorry about that. It's just one of those things. We do get these glitches sometimes. Hi Kim. Hi Laura. Yeah, so if you'd like to win something, have a go at that. What was the character that I said I'd quite like to be, that Jamie and Peter have ribbed me about ever since, and who might be quite at home in the village pub? Alright, so pop your answers on there. We'll pick somebody at random to be a winner, and I'll mention this again a little bit later as well. So the next thing I want to show you is the sentiments. I don't actually physically have them, so I brought one that was similar from another collection just to show you what they were like. So these were called the layered sentiments. There's been lots of them on the samples. You can see here one of the back panels has been used with one of the stamps, so the back panel there is from one of the dies, and some of them have been used on these samples. So this one, for instance, Happy Anniversary. So they're called layered dies, and they come with 2 borders and the word. And these are really fabulous because they give you so many options. Like any set of dies where you get multiple dies, you can choose how you want to use them. So this one I'm showing you has this banner shaped backdrop to it, 2 sizes, so you can cut 2 layers for your words. There are the words as well, or you can use them independently, or if you cut them out together at the same time, put the dies together like you would any framing die, you will then actually get a frame, an open frame with an opening in the middle, and then you can put your word into that. So that's how they work. And the 5 sentiments that came out at the same time as this stamp collection was Sending Love and Wishes, Happy Anniversary, Happy Easter, With Love, and With Sympathy. Jamie, don't pretend to be innocent. You have mentioned it, I think, in every live you've ever done since. So if nobody knows the answer to the question, you haven't been watching. Anyway, back to what we should be talking about. So yes, so there were 5 sentiments that came alongside, but of course they can go into any collection. They're not fixed with this collection, it's just that that's when they were released. Okay, so I want to get started with something else that's one of my favourite things in life, and that is the Elite Misters. Now, I have 6 of these. I think there are only 6 so far in the collections. And we've got Night Sky Navy, which is amazingly rich and dark and moody. We have Gladiator Red, which is the most incredible, vibrant red. Seashell Blue, which is a beautiful sky blue. Sunbeam Yellow, which is a slightly orangey yellow, a bit, I want to say egg yolky, but that's not very appealing, is it? But it's that kind of colour. Rose Petal Pink, which is a classic pink, and Heritage Green, which is a lovely rich green. The reason I love sprays so much is that they're so versatile, because you can obviously spray them, and these have got a really good positive nozzle for spraying with. Some sprays can be problematic, some leak, some don't spray very well, some blob. These are great, they give a good mist every time. But also you can paint with them, you can mix them into other mediums like pastes, texture pastes, stencil pastes, all that sort of thing. So I really have enjoyed working with these, and I've found them to behave differently to some others that I'm more familiar with at the moment, but I'm loving them because they are different. So if you're thinking to yourself, I've got loads of sprays in my cupboard, why do I need any more? Well, because they do offer something different. And what I've found with these, although they're water based, once they dry they're pretty much fixed. So they're not water reactive like you might think some sprays are, where you can mist over the top again and block them off. I found, certainly on the matte white cardstock, on Jamie's white cardstock, it doesn't move once it's down and dry, which is quite unusual for a spray, a water-based spray. So I'm loving that aspect of it. But you can water them and paint with them before they dry. So sort of double properties there, if you like, within these bottles. So let me show you where we're going to go with this. And get myself organised. I'm only a tease because of all that messing at the beginning, but anyway. Hello Pam, nice to see you here. Here's my trusty spray box, because spraying can get messy, so I like to try and contain it as much as possible. And we're going to be working with the Lighthouse. So let me show you where I'm going with this. This is one of my favourite things to do, is to create the background first and then add the focal point and work around that. So I'm almost painting in reverse, if you like. Rather than stamping it and thinking I've got to colour the whole thing in, I put the colour down first and then I stamp it and then I add detail into it after that, or even remove detail from it. So let's get started on that. So I've got a piece of the white cardstock here, and I'm going to be using for this seashell blue and night sky navy and a lot of water. And the first thing I want to do is mist my card on both sides. That's just to stop it bowing. If you only mist cardstock on one side, it immediately bends and forms a curve, and then anything else you put onto it just runs off the side. So I like to mist it both sides. If I'm working on something wet to start with, it doesn't matter, and I want this really wet, because I found if I went straight to the cardstock with the sprays, they grabbed very quickly and didn't move as much. But if you wet the card first, then the sprays are going to be able to move. And I kind of think where I want these colours to be, because I'm going to be stamping on this. So that's the seashell blue. Isn't that a lovely pale blue colour? Really gorgeous. Now this night sky navy is incredible. Look at that. Wow, it's gorgeous. And this is what's given me that fabulous moody sky on my card. Sorry, I'm just looking for some tissue. Got a bit of spray back there. I'll have my fingers in it if I'm not careful. Now once you've got that, you can leave it like that, or you can add more water to it, and then you can go back in and add more ink if you wish. If you think, oh, I want a bit more dark, look at that, wow, and a bit more dark down there, then you can do that. And then if it's getting a little bit overpowering, can you see? Sorry, my lights are reflecting in all that water now. I'll put a bit more of the seashell blue in there. I'm just wiping the nozzle. It's a habit that I've always been in, to just wipe the nozzle when I've finished, so that you don't get stray ink. And it just keeps it all nice and clean. Now you can leave that just as it is. You can tip it up and let it flow around. You can blot off if you've got areas that are a bit too heavy or are puddling too much, because where it puddles you will end up getting sort of a ring, which can be quite effective, but it's not always what we want, is it? So I'm just going to leave that now and let it dry naturally. You can force dry it with a heat gun if you want it to. I always prefer to let things dry naturally if I can. So here's one I did earlier. Now let me get rid of that inky piece of paper. So this one I did in exactly the same way, and now it's had time to dry, and it's created all these fantastic flows and patterns in the ink. So now the only issue I've got is deciding which way to use it. So let's bring in the stamp. I'm going to be using the Lighthouse, and I want this to go, sorry, can't find it now, it'll be the last one I come to, of course it is. Right. What I like to do is take the stamp off the index sheet, because then I can look through the index sheet and see exactly where my best position is going to be to put this stamp. So because I've got an idea of what I want the light to look like, I think I'm going to go about there. So I've got light on this side, I've got dark from the sea and a stormy sky, or perhaps it's night time, the dawn's maybe just creeping in. So then what I'm going to do is take the actual stamp and put that vaguely where I want it. It's not as easy to see through the stamp as it is the index sheet, that's why I do it that way. Once you're happy with that, pop it in your stamping platform, which I've already got a stamp sitting in. Just let me remove it. Oh, sorry about that, I'm having one of those nights. Okay. I like to use the stamping platform just because I can get it in the right place and I can decide then how strong I want the inking to be, or if I get an imperfect stamped image I can correct it, but you don't have to have one. So I'm going to be using Jamie's Black Panther quick dry pigment ink. This is a really lovely stamping ink. It's a really good black, proper black. Some blacks can have a little bit of a blue tint, or even a purple tint, or even a brown tint. This is a really good black. I know it sounds a bit mad saying it's a good black, but I think you know what I mean. And then let's turn this and give it a good press all over. Okay. Hi Alison. Oh, don't worry, I was well late. There were things going on. So there we are. Now you can see how that suddenly it's got a storm brewing. It's got dawn breaking. I think when I was a kid, my mum used to keep me quiet by drawing me scribbles, and then I used to create something from the scribble and turn it into a picture. And I think that's sort of a similar idea to what I'm doing here, is looking at the pattern that's created in the inky background and then making it work for the picture I want to do. And I think if you have a look at the first one, the finished one, you'll be able to see a bit better. I mean, I've altered it. I'll show you some of these tricks as we go. But that was my starting point, and it's quite effective. If you've never done it, give it a try. Just, random background. Don't try and control it, because it's quite impossible to do that. But just have a go at doing an inky background and making that your starting point, rather than starting with the image and then wondering what you're going to do with it. Okay, so what are we going to do with it? Well, I'm going to bring in a blending mat. I love these, dead useful. And I'm going to get myself a piece of kitchen paper. I always have that handy, just for dipping my brush onto and mopping up and things like that. And what I want to do now is bring this picture to life by adding light and shade to this image. And I'm going to be using just plain water. I'm going to use some of the liquid ink to paint with, and I'm also going to use some household bleach. So those three things, and obviously a paintbrush, are going to help me create this picture. So I'm going to start with some bleaching. So what I do, it's the thinnest, cheapest bleach you can buy, the really runny stuff. The thicker stuff doesn't work. And then I take off the excess from my brush, because I don't want it to flood everywhere, and I'd rather let it work slowly. I can control it if I take the excess off. And I'm just going to go up the side of this lighthouse I've decided the sun's coming up, it's dawn, the light's coming from this side, because that's what the ink is showing me. You might think I've lost the plot, but stay with me. So I'm going to draw the light reflecting on the side of the lighthouse there, back in the bleach, and then just tap it so it's not drippy wet, up the side of the platform. Can you see how it's lifting that colour? I love doing this. It's really exciting to see what's going to happen. And then as it lifts out the colour, it's quite magical. So already now, can you see that? And then I also want to show that reflection on some of the details down here. So on the roof of this little house, on the edge of the roof of this house here, maybe just down the front edge of that path, it's just catching it there. And also it's just coming up the edge of the cliffs here. So I'm just taking the front leading edge and letting that light hit it. Can you see that? Okay. And then I wanted to add some detail into the clouds. So I've got here a cotton bud, and I'm going to dip the cotton bud in the bleach. Don't completely dunk it, just the tip. Okay, squeeze off some excess, and then I'm going to roll that on my kitchen paper again so it's not saturated, and I'm going to pounce this on the clouds. And it's magic. It just takes the colour out. What I have found with the darker blue spray, it goes slightly lilac-y, purpley. But you can apply a second coat of bleach, and eventually it will come up a bit whiter. So I'm just gently tapping in there. Okay. And just blend it out so it's not so solid and you haven't got sort of solid edges. You can take this to whatever level you want. Then I'm going to go back in my bleach again. Again, I'm dipping just the tip, and then I'm taking off most of the wetness onto my kitchen roll. Okay, and now I'm going to come across to these ones here and do the same. Just a little tap, 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 trying to stay within the lines. Surprising, actually, these are quite accurate for getting into detail. So we've got light now coming. Can you see already? It just looks so different, doesn't it? And it's real fun to do. It's a bit like reverse painting, I suppose, if you'd have to give it a name. Okay, and we can dabble around at these till we get the effect we want. It's coming alive, isn't it? And just do a little bit more down these. Sorry, I'm just trying to read some comments. Let me just... Oh, thin bleach. You can usually find it, I think, in the supermarkets in big, really quite big drums, but it's not very expensive. It's nothing like your posh stuff. Maybe somewhere, you know, like the discount supermarkets might have it. I don't know. I've had mine so long, it lasts forever. Now these clouds down here, in my head the sun's up here, so it's hitting this way. These ones have not had so much sun on them yet, so I don't want these to be quite as cleaned up, if you like. I'm just going to put a hint of a tint where the light's just beginning to reach. Now it looks a bit blobby at the minute, but don't worry about that. Okay, that's quite nice. And it's quite relaxing, as long as you don't mind the smell of bleach. You know, it's quite soothing, and it's quite exciting. It's exciting watching it develop. Look at this now. Yes, I've tried faux bleaching as well, and it's not as easy. It takes a lot more work. Look at that. I love that. Right, I think that's probably... I'll stop for now. We can always go back and add a bit more. Just pop my cotton bud to one side. I will take the bleach out of the waste before I knock it everywhere. Now I want to do the opposite. I want to add some darkness into this. So I'm going to bring in the Night Sky Navy. Now I wouldn't recommend spraying this onto this blending pad. This is one of Jamie's blending mats. These are an absolute boon. I use them for all sorts of stuff. I use them for mixing on. I use them for putting glue on. I use them for painting from. They really are fabulous, and you get 6 of the smaller ones in a pack for £6, so £1 each. I mean, it's well worth it. So I'm just going to use the nozzle rather than trying to spray it, because it will go everywhere if I spray it straight onto that. Make sure you screw the lid back on. Top tip. It is incredible the difference it makes, isn't it? And it's so easy to do. So I'm going to think now, all right, if the light's coming this way, then all this dark side is going to be on this side here. So I'm just going to pick up a little bit of this ink. Again, I think the trick is not to have too much wetness on your brush. So you'll see I always tend to dab my brush so it's not going to drip anywhere, and I've got a little bit more control. So I'm going to do the opposite now, and I'm going to come down the opposite side of the lighthouse. And I'm just going to drag my brush down there. Now at the moment this is very dark, but it will soften. But can you see now? We've got shadow on this side, light hitting this side, and in between different shades. I'm going to continue that down these cliffs, because these would definitely be still in shadow. And this was where it got interesting with these sprays, because as I painted it I thought, oh, that's lovely, it's gone really dark, and that's just what I need, and fabulous. And then when I came back to it, it kind of absorbed. These sprays, to me, they've got a bit of a chalky finish to them. They're really quite interesting, and I've really enjoyed getting to know them. So yeah, I'm very happy playing with these. And when I first did this I thought, oh, I've gone too dark, I can't see the lines now on the stamped image, but as I say, they tended to absorb slightly. I think it's possibly to do with the cardstock as well, because it's not just about the product you use, it's also about the cardstock, the surface that you're working on. If I did this on watercolour card, it would be an entirely different result, because the ink would sit on top a lot longer. So I won't do all of this because it'll probably get a bit tedious just watching me paint, but I can sit and do this for hours. It's what I find most relaxing. You can add a bit of water here and there and put down a lighter colour, so perhaps here where we're coming up towards the top and it's not quite so dark, just thin it down a little bit, get some water on it and go a shade lighter. That's another reason why I love sprays as well, because like any water-based ink or watercolour ink, you can, you know, graduate the strength of it and create the exact look that you want to achieve. So can you see how that's now starting to have some real shade? And then I've also started to enhance the sea and the rocks down here a little bit. So I'll just do a little bit. These are going to be in the darkest shadow because they're right down at the base of the lighthouse. So I'll just go in dark down here. And it's great when you start to do this because you really start to see all the detail in these stamps, and they are really detailed, they're really beautifully drawn. Absolutely gorgeous. Okay. So now I'm going to just extend the shadow a little bit. Now it's dried and I can see where it's going. I've got a more watered down colour, and I'm going to pull up the side of that. So we've got the light beginning to travel a little bit. Can you see that? And then I need to look at the surf, because obviously the surf is really lively and we need to bring that alive, don't we? So I'm going back to my bleach. I'm going to use my brush this time. If you do use your brushes in bleach, always make sure you wash them out thoroughly afterwards, because it can actually rot the bristles if you just leave it in there forever. So just something to bear in mind. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to follow the movement in these waves, and I'm just going to flick my brush in little curves, back in for a little bit more, and bring these waves to life. Splashing right up to the lighthouse here, it's fantastic. You see that developing now? It's great, isn't it? Well, I think it is, but then I'm easily pleased. And I think this is something anybody can achieve. You know, you might think, oh, I can't paint. I can't paint. I can mess like this and get an effect that I think, yeah, quite like that. So let's get some of this sea foam coming alive. Like I say, I'm just kind of following the curves that are there in the stamp. Can you see that? And then I'm also thinking, well, if the sun's coming this way, it's actually going to hit, it'll be hitting the horizon by now. So again, in with my bleach and my brush, and I'm just going to drag that along the sea line. And I'm going shorter with each little row. And then just some dots. So it's catching the light now on the horizon. There you go. And can you see how this is still developing now? I haven't had to go back and give it another coat, and I'm not going to. I'm quite happy with it as it is. So I'm going to leave it at that. There are other little things that we can do. So I'm going to bring in a white pen, and I'm just going to start to add some splashes, just dots, lots of dots. I can't, my hand's in the way, it's really tricky to show you this, but I'm just dotting the pen up and around where these waves are crashing so that there's lots of spray. And then I'm going to follow these again, just follow the curves with lots of dots of white pen. And obviously the spray goes beyond where the actual waves are. Don't be frightened of going away from the lines. And then on the horizon again, I'm just going to add one or two little scintillations. That's a big word, isn't it? It's where the light hits. Can you see that? So I worked a little bit more on the one I've done to finish that off. But that's basically the techniques I've used. So using the dark ink to add in shadow, bleach to remove colour and create the lights effects, and then just keep going till you're happy with what you've achieved, and it really does come alive. I love doing this. So you can go to town on that, and if you want to, you can lighten the path with you could go back in with a bit more of the blue, the light blue, the seashell blue, and just go over the path area. It's entirely up to you. You can take it as far as you want, but I'm quite happy with that. And then if, like on this one, I decided I wanted the sun to be breaking through the clouds, so I just used my cotton bud again to dabble. I just dotted around until I got a break in the clouds, and there was the sun just coming through. So you can do that as well. I'm going to leave this one as it is because I quite like this sort of patch here that's happening, so I'm going to leave that as it is. So there we are. And then to finish this off, we'll just move some bits and pieces. I have been using some of these fabulous nesting dies. So I've got the decal rectangle and the stitched border, and I've used those two together. But you do need sometimes with these to be careful. If it's one of the fancy edges, they can overlap, so you might have to do it in two steps, but with this one I could do it all at once. So I had my decal edge and then the stitch and then the plain to create a frame, and when I've used those three together, this is what I've got. So I've got this really lovely frame. Let me get something better to contrast that with, you can see it a bit better. I always forget about this. Piece of black card. There we go. So decal edge, stitched edge and a straight rectangle all together, and that gives us this fabulous frame. Now when I'm framing a picture, I like to do a double frame. So I've also taken a slightly smaller size of the straight edge rectangle. So I've taken the next size down and I've cut that into this black card to create my double mount. So that's my second mount. And then when I put those together, you just overlap them like that, and as long as the black frame is narrower than the white so it doesn't show, then that's how I create a double mount. So if I get my picture back now, obviously this needs trimming down, but I would create my frame first and then decide exactly where I want to frame this picture. And I quite like the lighthouse fairly low down so that there's a nice amount of that moody sky. And then I would then trim this down to fit, pop that over the top, and then another nice thing about doing a panel like this is that the ink actually seeps through. If you use lots and lots of water, the ink can seep through, and some of these effects on the back are really gorgeous. Sometimes you might prefer that actually. But I decided with the offcuts that I was going to use it to create my sentiment. So I've got two more from the rectangle die set, and I've got a piece of white, a piece of black, and this was the offcut, but I actually want to use the other side. I just love that effect. I think that's great. And to stamp this, I'm going to use one of the sentiments from the stamp set, and I chose Always Here For You. So this is quite a long sentiment. I always think with these it's better to put them face down and just let them relax, because they can distort, and if you do that with them and then pick that up on your block rather than trying to put it on your block by hand, it'll stay in line a lot better. So I'm going to stamp this on this piece, and I just want to use the die to assess which bit do I want. Quite like that bit there. So I'm going to stamp down in this bottom right hand corner. So again, using that same lovely black pigment ink, the Black Panther. Just hover over there. Remember to leave enough room to die cut round it. And then press down gently. You don't need to really press hard on sentiments because the lines are very fine. And if you press too hard, they'll spread and then you get a really thick line to your stamp. But just give the ink time to transfer. And there we are. So that's the sentiment done. And then I can die cut around that. And then I wanted it mounting on black and then on white. But the next size up for the black I felt was a bit too big. So I've got a neat trick for you. If that happens and you want just a tiny margin on your die, and you're not very good at cutting straight lines on your guillotine or whatever, take the smaller die and draw around it, because the dies have this extension on the outside of metal that supports the cutting blade, so it's slightly bigger. So draw around it and then cut it out, either with scissors or on your guillotine, whichever you like to do. Now it does give rounded corners, but you don't have to follow that, because that's sometimes tricky as well, isn't it? But it just gives you that tiny margin of black, and the perfect size. If you try, I don't know about you, but when I try and cut tiny margins, I need a bit more off there, a bit more off there, a bit more, and you end up with nothing left. You've gone too far and it's all wonky and you might as well not have bothered. So doing it this way, now if I just cut this out so I can show you. Here you do, you're getting a pickle. Well, I do, I'm getting in a right pickle. So I'm just going to die cut this now for you. And you'll see exactly what I mean about having that tiny margin. Sorry, I don't like disappearing on you, but sometimes these things have to be done. There we are. So I just did tape it. Okay. So now if I go back to the piece where I drew round the die, you can see it's the perfect size to mat and layer that. And then I can cut the bigger size from white. And with only 2 dies, I've actually managed to achieve 3 layers, which was what I wanted. And that's how I've achieved the sentiment on here, like that. So it's the back of the card where the ink had bled through, so it's softer. Otherwise, your sentiment might not show up. And then I've used that trick of drawing around the smaller die to get that tiny margin. And it's perfect. It's not like when you try to do it by eye, try to do it on guillotine. I don't know about you, but I can never get it straight. So I love doing that, and it's a great way to increase the use of your dies in a way. So there we are. That's the Lighthouse. At dawn, after a stormy night. So, let me come and talk to you. Alright, hello. Thank you all for joining. I'm sorry it was such a mess at the beginning, but these things do happen, and we got there in the end, didn't we? So thank you for hanging in there, sticking with me. I hope you've enjoyed that, picked up some tips. Yeah, it's a good tip, that frame, isn't it? I like the double mount on the actual frame itself, and then I like the repeating that in the sentiment, so you've still got that black and white and the colour, you've got the same colours, repeat it through the mounting for the sentiment. So I hope you've picked up some tips and that you'll have a go. If you are going to use bleach, please do wear an apron or be really, really careful, and potentially, if you can, have a window open because it smells. But apart from that, it's great fun, and there are lots of other things you can do, lots of ways to use it as well. Thank you, Kim. So we said a bit of a question for you, and you might be able to win that card. So the question was, what character did I say I would quite like to be, humorously, if I could go back in time? And Jamie and Pete have never let me forget it. And I must say, I'm giving a disclaimer. I will not be appearing in that said fancy dress. I will not. So, what character did I say I wanted to be? And a little clue, I would probably be quite at home in the village pub. So, who did I say I would like to be? Pop your answers in the comments. We'll pick one at random, and somebody can win something that I've made tonight. And you deserve it for all that perseverance at the beginning there, so thanks for that. Alright, well, I don't have much news for you tonight. Obviously we're back to normal, so Jamie's doing Monday night natter, I'm back to Thursday night natters now. And he has done his massive new release, so I'm sure he'll be following up with lots of gorgeous examples from that over the next few weeks. And I know that he's going to be appearing on Highlight Crafts VIP shopping, so well worth catching him on there if you can. I was going to say something else then and it's gone. Oh dear, sign of age. I'm sure he'll fill you in on what he's got coming up anyway, but there's a lot of exciting stuff. The warehouse is coming on a treat. His office is nearly ready to be used, so things are coming on a treat, and really looking forward to being able to come down for visiting. So yeah, all right then, so let's have a look at another example, shall we? And this time I am going to be visiting the village pub, so let's have a look and I'll show you the card I'm going to make. Right, so here we are. There she is in all her glory. And this one is a little bit different. So when you actually open it, this is a pop and flip card. Now I can't claim credit for this. This is something I saw on YouTube and I thought that's a fantastic idea. And so I've adapted it to fit a different shape and a different size than the one I saw. But isn't that different? And it's meant to display open, so it's a bit like a pop-up card, but it sort of pops and flips, and you can use it horizontally, or you can also do a vertical pop and flip. It depends which way you want to do it. So that's my next example I'm going to be talking you through now. So if you have any questions or anything you'd like to know, just please pop it in the comments. I'll try and catch things as they come up, and yeah, try and keep you in the loop, so to speak. So I'm going to start by showing you again. I did do another sprayed panel, so I just need to clean out my box so I can spray another one, so just bear with me a minute while I do that. Okay, so I'm bringing back the spray box. I just need to wipe it out, and then I'm going to put a piece of paper in the bottom of it as well. There we go, I'll do it that way. So for this card, because I wanted a piece to go on the inside as well, I've used a panel for the front, and then I've used another panel for the inside. And actually you could decorate the inside of this as well, that'd be nice, wouldn't it? But I decided to do a whole A4 piece, so I've got plenty to go at for what I needed. And for this one I'm using Sunbeam Yellow, Seashell Blue and Rose Petal Pink. So in my head I'm thinking I'll try and get the yellow around where the pub's going to be, and then I'll introduce some sky and a little bit of pink that can be sunshine or flowers or whatever. But again, I'm not overthinking it, and I'm just going to now add some water to that. I didn't wet my card first this time. I want a slightly different effect. And then I'm going to bring in a little bit of the pink. Bear in mind, with these colours you are going to get blending occurring. So where you've got orange and blue, you are going to get some green. Where you've got pink and blue, you'll get sort of lilac. So you can work on that as well. I want a bit more blue going on here, I think. Let's get more blue, more sky. There we are. Right, and then again, just leave that to dry naturally. They will continue to move and blend, and you'll come back to an interesting piece. Okay, so that's really easy to do. And then once you've got those panels done, so this is one I did yesterday, and then I've cut it into 2 panels, and the border as well that came off, that can be quite good again for sentiments and things like that. So I keep things like that and think, well, I could stamp my sentiment or die cut my sentiment out of that. So I do keep bits like that for a short amount of time, and then I think, no, enough's enough. Alright, so I'm going to swap my stamp in my platform, and I'm going to bring in the pub, and I'm going to do that same method of deciding where do I want it to sit on that picture. So let me find that pub. There we go. So again, I'm going to take the stamp off the indexing sheet, if I can get it off, and I'm going to use the indexing sheet to decide where I want to put the stamp. So I think I'm going to use this piece because I've got some blue for sky on that. I've got some orange for the pub and bits of pink that could be blossoms or whatever you want it to be. So let's have a look at where I want this to be. I think probably fairly central would be good on that one. So around about there. So I'll bring in the stamp and pop it there. Okay. Then I'm just going to get this set up in the stamping platform. And pick it up on the lid, and then we can go. So again, I'm going to use this lovely black stamping ink. And give it a good old press down. There we are. Just give it another coat. Make sure it's a good outline. It's stamped well anyway, but I just want to darken it slightly, so I'm giving it another coat. Right, there we are. And that's it for that one. That's all you need to do. Now I'm going to do some similar things that I did to the lighthouse, but I'm also going to add colour into this one a lot more. So I'm going to bring in the sunbeam yellow. This is a gorgeous amber colour. You can see it here how beautifully orangey yellow it is. It's really nice. Just going to put that out of the way. So again, I just use the tube inside to bring out some of the colour, and working on the blending mat as a palette is the perfect vehicle for that. Rinse the bleach off the brush, and now I'm going to do is enhance certain areas of this by painting. So I'm going to bring this obviously into the thatch and just paint that in. Look at that already. And again, because I've got that, it's almost like having an undercoat, if you like. it means you're not struggling to fill up that space with the colour, because it's already got colour laid down, and it goes on so much more easily. You don't have the same problems. If I was going straight onto white cardstock at this point, this ink would grab quite quickly, and there are things you can do to avoid that, but this works perfectly. It's really cool. And being a thatch, it doesn't matter if it gets a few lines in it anyway, does it? So I need a bit more. So I'm not watching this down, this is full strength. And because the undercoat, if you like, was the same colour, although it's blended a little bit, it's just almost like doing tone on tone. So it makes it really easy to introduce that colour. Let's drinking it up. So it's quite quick, it's quite a quick method of colouring things, this. You will get different shades coming through because obviously the other colours are blending and coming into play as well. But that's okay, that makes it all very interesting. And you can go back and you can add a bit more shade and patches. And it just all kind of melds together. It's really cool. Can you see that? So you can take this to whatever level you like. I like to stay with just 2 or 3 colours. I try not to introduce too many colours. The background's quite busy colour wise, but I'm just going to pop a little bit of this Gladiator red. A tiny bit of this goes a very long way, and I'm going to bring in a little bit of the orange and create a kind of a terracotta, so that we can paint our plant pots. I'm just going to take a tiny bit of water to loosen that slightly, and then you don't want to add too much water because it can bleed on your cardstock if it's too wetty. So we can just bring in some terracotta pots. There's so much detail on this. To actually paint it properly does take a little while, but as I say, because I've got that background colour down, I don't have to paint every square centimetre of it, and I'm all for that. Anything that makes life slightly easier. There we are. And there's a little hanging basket on the wall there. And I don't know if any of you are eagle-eyed enough, if you've got this stamp or you've seen it. What is this pub called? I couldn't believe it when I saw it, and I thought that's amazing. So what is the pub called? See if you can find out. I'm going to bring a little bit more red. And I want to create some brick chimneys now. So this is going to have more red and less yellow, but I still keep it separated so it doesn't overdo it. And then I can just quickly add my chimneys. Oops. There we go. It reminds me of being a child, this. I used to love colouring. I used to have colouring books and spend hours thinking up colour themes, and loved it. And then the pots on top, they're more like a clay pot, aren't they? So slightly more orangey again for those. You get the idea. You can just sit and do this and doodle. You can do it outside in the garden, perhaps with a nice cold drink, whatever floats your boat really. And then I'll just bring in some green. I'm not going to do all of this because, as I say, it does take a while. I'm not going to lie, but it's fun and it's relaxing and it's very mindful. You can sort of let yourself drift a little bit while you're doing it. It's lovely. So I'm going to just do one of the trees. And again, what I find interesting, because I've already got this variegated coloured background, this tree will end up being a different colour to this tree, because this tree's got yellow behind it, this tree's got blue behind it. So without even trying, I'm going to get different coloured trees and shrubs and all that kind of thing. So just wiggle your brush around. It doesn't have to be perfect. Some of it you'll find it does absorb slightly into this. As I say, these sprays have got a really interesting texture on this cardstock. It's not always about the spray itself, it's quite often more about the surface that you're working on. And it's well worth experimenting with different types of card. There we are. That was quick, wasn't it? Now we've got a lovely tree. Let's do this one. This one's going to be a bit more of a tealy green. You can always add some other colours as well into the green. Add some blue, make it a different shade. Add some yellow, that will lighten it up. You know, there's lots of ways of adding more interest. But it depends what you're going to do. I mean, to me, if this is for a card, then it's, you know, it tends to be a little bit quicker than if it's going to be a work of art and you're going to frame it. What do you mean? But look at that now. And this happens really quickly. It comes together really quickly once you start adding colours. So that's how I did my picture in the middle. And I'm going to show you really how to put the card together, because that's the fun bit. So I've started off with a piece of card. I've already got it to size. I've scored it. And there's the panel that's going to go on the front. Excuse me. So what I want to do is create the oval flip up part of this, and to do that I need to cut through both these layers. So I'm going to glue this in place, but I'm only going to glue around the edges. Yes, Lynn, she's got it. Well, you've seen it up close and personal, haven't you? But yeah, it's called the Fox, the pub. And there's a little signpost in the trees. It's fantastic. The detail is unbelievable. I nearly went and glued my whole panel then because I was getting so excited. So just glue around the edges, leave the middle open because we want to be able to cut that. Okay, so I don't know if you can see, but I have got a score line on this, and so I'm putting this on what will become the front of the card. Make sure you don't get it upside down, that's never a good trick. And I'm just going to turn this over so I can really give it a good press and smooth it out, because it's rippled a bit with being a bit wet still. There is actually the words as well, Lynn. It does say the Fox. I couldn't believe it when I saw it. You might be able to see it better on here. Can you see that there? You can't really see it, can you? It's so tiny. But there is a little fox, and it says the Fox. It made me chuckle. I think it's brilliant. And then I started trying to paint it and thought, So yeah. There we go. Right, so now to cut this, what I've done, I've got a series of ovals this time from the matting and layering sets. I love these dies. I'm using them such a lot. They're fabulous. For the main centre panel, I'm just going to use a smooth edged oval, and these two I'm going to use to create a frame. So I'm going to take this down and I'm going to run it through the die cut machine. I'm sorry, it means I'll have to leave you again. So yeah, obviously have your card flat and open when you do this, because you don't want to cut through the back as well. So we'll just whiz this through. Sorry, I'm just chuckling to myself at Lynn. So my tape's gone a bit sticky. Just be careful when you're peeling your tape off. I shouldn't really be doing it while the paint is still slightly damp, because it's not a good way to do it. So I'm just going to be a little bit careful. Keep it low down and peel it back on itself. You've less chance of it tearing then. Alright, so now we've got the hole in the front of our card, and I've got this, which is actually 2 thicknesses, and I can take the white one away because I don't need that. And that, at some point, that's going to go back in there. Okay? So let's fold our card in half now, and flatten the crease. There we are. Now for the mechanism, this is really fun, and I haven't brought my scoring board. Just let me go grab my scoring board. Hang on me a sec. Sorry about that. I hate it when people do that on videos. They go disappearing after find something. So I've got a piece of card here, and it measures 4 inches by 2 3/4 inches. And I'm going to score this at every inch along the long edge. So at 1, 2, and 3. The size of this doesn't really, it's not critical. This measurement's not critical. You do want to keep 4 equal panels, and it doesn't need to be more than an inch. So 4 inches by whatever you want to do that way, depending on the size of this border here, because that's where it's going to fit. So depending on the width of that, you might need to go a little bit smaller. And then I have another piece here which is 1 inch by 2.5, and I'm going to score this in half. So half of 2.5 is 1 1/4, and I'll fold that and then press the creases, and that's it. That's all you need for your mechanism. So this, we're going to fold each of the folds. Always burnish your creases nicely so they're nice and sharp, and always open it out to do each crease independently. Don't try and crease through 2 layers because it distorts things. Okay, so we're going to be creating this little box, if you like, but initially I'm just going to fold it in half. It has gone slightly skewy. Let me just press that in again. Okay, and I need to get this into the crease of the card. You can use tape for this. I like to use glue. I think it gives you a much stronger bond once it dries. So you put your glue just on the open end and on the first panel only, and you're going to put that as central as you can and push it into the crease, and then just let that fix up. Takes a little bit longer with Jamie's glue. Once it grabs though, it's gone. It's great. I do like his glue. Then we're going to put glue on the other panel that has the open end, and you're going to close the card front down on that. So just be careful you don't get glue. I've gone in and done it, put too much glue on that, and it's coming through the aperture. Just wipe it off. So if you put your glue in a U shape rather than all over like I just did, close your card down and let that set. Are you with me so far? It's actually really simple. I was really impressed when I saw this. I thought, I've got to have a go at that. And I've done a few different sizes and it works. As I say, you can adjust the width of this. You can, I suppose, make it smaller, as long as you've got 4 equal panels. So then when you open this, you have that little box in place. Can you see that? And that's your pop-up part of the mechanism. And then the flip part, Should I turn that the other way so you can't see the letters? It goes here. So it doesn't matter if it protrudes beyond here. It needs to go up to there. And you get it centred again, and then you just glue one side onto that while it's closed down. And again, just let that set. So the opening is at the top, and this is a V-shaped fold. Can you see that? I'm just going to pull it down slightly. And then we're going to put this back in. Okay? So put glue on the other side of this now. Pop that back in. And that's our mechanism done. Just needs to let it set. I don't want to try and open it and have it all fall apart now, so just bear with me. So while that's just drying up, I am going to show you how I created the frame for this. So I had the fluted edge. I lost my piece of black card. Fluted edge oval and the pierced oval, which just sits inside. So you can do them both at the same time, but because it's so close, I decided to do it separately just so I didn't risk getting them crossed over and bent. So, and then I also cut this out of the centre at the same time, because that frame is going to go around this. So that's how I did those. I did those two at the same time, and then I did the pierced one separately and just ran it through again. So that's how I got my frame, and this is my frame finito. There we are. And it's got that lovely little piercing detail. It's lovely, isn't it? So that's the frame done, and that's going to go around this. Ovals are a bit of a thing to get lined up, but just keep adjusting it slightly till you find the right spot. And if you do this, it doesn't really want to overlap the aperture, if you can help it. So just a little bit of glue around that. Give me some layers. Okay. There. So now when we open this card up, we've got the pop and flip mechanism. Now the only thing I would say, which I haven't done, is you need to put your inside, if you're going to decorate this inside, you need to put that in first, because obviously now this is all attached and stuck in place, and it's a lot harder to do it afterwards. Ask me how I know that. Thanks so much. That's really kind, Sue. And let me come back and say a few, just have a few conversations. It's really sweet of you to say that. Thank you. I really enjoy the sort of teaching side. I don't know if I go into too much detail for some people, but I think it's nice for you to be able to see exactly how I do things and how I achieve the results I do, because it's one thing looking at something and thinking, oh, I love that, but how's it been done? So I do like to get into the detail, so I hope you appreciate that and you're not fed up. So yeah, stick that in first, the base plate underneath, before you do this. But I just wanted to show you the mechanism so it was clear exactly how that went together. So I hope you can always watch this back, can't you, to get a bit more clue as to how I did that. But what I do want to do is show you how I created some pattern on this background as well. So let's go back to that. So here's the other part of my sheets that I made them all at the same time. And for this one, I'm going to bring in that beautiful Happy Birthday DL stamp. Just put my pub away. So here we are. This is that lovely DL stamp. And I'm going to stamp this all over the background. Now, I don't want to be stamping on the inside of my platform, so what I like to do is protect this with some scrap paper. So I just get a piece of scrap, pop it in there, and then work on that, and it just saves the trouble of things getting marked. So I'm going to cover half the stamp to start with, half the panel, sorry. Oops. Strong, these magnets. There's another one under there somewhere. Where's it gone? It's going to start interfering if I don't find it. Ooh, don't know. Alright, never mind. Let's pop that on there. So I'm just going to leave it clear of the edge. Pick that up. And again, using that black panther. Tap, tap, tap all over. And then we can stamp. Thank you all so much for your kind comments. That's good to know. So you can see that I haven't stamped that particularly well. So I can go back and give it another go. Press it again. That's better. And then when I first did this, I was tempted to turn the panel round, and I thought, no, you muppet, because if you do that, it'll be upside down. So don't do that. You'll have to actually move your stamp. So I found the other magnet. There we are. So take the stamp off. Check you've got the text the right way around. And just line it up. Oops, sorry. Eek. Just line it up with, I use the little hearts and flowers to get it in line, and leave a little space between the text, like so. Just match it up. Oh, the cheek of these magnets, honestly. I'll leave that one out. It's misbehaving. Right, pick the stamp up again. Obviously there'll be a little bit of residual ink on that, so it will leave a mark, which is why I was a bit more careful about where I placed it. And up again. And continue your pattern. There we go. So now we've got a lovely colourful background with text on it as well. Again, a quick way to achieve a lovely background. And as I say, that should have gone in the back of the card to start with. But there we are. Then I have brought some of the little stamps that come on that set. I've got the beer glass and the wine glass. So I've just stamped those and coloured them in, again using the sprays. So I'll just quickly do one, give you an idea. really easy to do this. I've only used one colour on each of them, but I've still managed to get a little bit of light and shade in there. The other thing I really love about these inks as well is when they're dry, they are permanent. So, have we gone upside down? Why have we gone upside down? Oh, let me see if I can flip my screen. There we go. Sorry, it must have been when I hit the camera. Oh, it's gone left to right now, hasn't it? Oh, for goodness sake. Oh, well, we'll just have to work backwards. Right, so, yeah, these inks, when they're dry, you can use them with watercolour and they don't bleed. And you can also use them with alcohol markers and they don't bleed. So really quite incredible. They're superb inks. I'm really enjoying them. So a little bit of Sunbeam Yellow. A little bit of water just on my brush, and then I tap my brush off. And then take a little bit of the ink out. And I'm just going to use, the lines are there on the stamp for you, so you can have the shine line just up to there, around the bottom. Quickly fill it in. Another shine line on the glass. Really gorgeous detail. And then just on this outside edge, like that. And then I decided it would reflect into the base, wouldn't it? That sort of glass. It doesn't just stay clear, does it? So water it down so you get a thinner colour, and just reflect that through the base, like so. And then also the head, because the head on a pint is not actually white, is it? Never proper white. So just that watered down colour. And there you have a pint of lager. And then for the wine glass, I use the Gladiator Red. And the other nice thing is, I've got this paint on my palette, and it's dry, but if I put some water to it, it reactivates it. So I can still go and paint with this. So you could use this one to do a full-bodied red like I've done there, or you can water it down and you would have a rosé. So again, it's about learning your products, making the most of them, and then just having fun. And I'm just leaving a little shine line on that glass there as well, and just down in the base. There we are. So we've got a full-bodied red and a fruity red that's not so full-bodied. And then cut those out. I've just put some foam tape on one end so that they've got a bit of a tilt on them, and added them in to the front of the card. So here's the finished example. Take those bits out of the way. Stamps, the cheers and the let's celebrate. Sorry, I know it's backwards. And when you open it, this one has got its background in place. And there you have a pop flip, or flip pop, I don't know what you want to call it, card. Isn't that lovely? Something a bit different, and lends itself to these designs perfectly. Okay, well, it's getting late. I've kept you long enough, I think. I hope you've all enjoyed that. I have, eventually. Thank you so much, all of you, for joining me. Don't forget to answer our little question, and I will pick a name out at random. I can't do it now because I'm on my own, so I'll pick a name out at random and it will be announced on Jamie's page. And then if you can please message the page with your address Let us know if you'd like your card signing or not, and we'll make sure that that comes out to you in the post. So thank you all for joining in with that bit of fun. If you missed the question, you've a few minutes to still get your answer in. What character did I say I'd quite like to be if we could go back to any period in time? And the clue for you was, if I was that character, why would I would feel quite at home in the pub. So what character did I say I would quite like to be in the past? Entries in the comments. We will pick a name at random and we'll send you something from tonight's live that I've made. Thank you so much. Please don't forget to join Jamie on Monday for his Monday night natter. I can see some lovely comments. Thank you all. You've been very kind. And I will really look forward to seeing you next time, when I will be taking a look at some of Jamie's new items. I'm not going to say any more at this point. So take good care of yourselves. Be nice to each other. I'll see you next time. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.